This is a recording for the AQA GCSE Maths paper, Higher Tier, Paper 3, Calculator from the June 2024 series. Here are the first three patterns in a sequence made up of small squares. On the grid, draw pattern 4. Okay, so pattern 1 is made up of one square in the middle, 2 by 2, 3 by 3. So we need a 4 by 4 square in the middle. And with 4 squares around the edge. Well, not around the edge, on each corner. The expression for the number of small squares in a pattern is n squared plus 4. Work out the least value of n, which the number of small squares is greater than 500. Okay, I'm going to just put this equal to 500 and solve it, which will give me an idea. Take 4 from both sides to get n squared is 496. Square root both sides, which gives us n as 22.27. So obviously 22 will give us an answer below 500, so n is 23. You can check that yourself. 22 squared plus 4 is 488. And 23 squared plus 4 is equal to 533. So as you can see, it is 23. N is equal to 22. Question 2, use Pythagoras' theorem to work out the value of A. The Pythagoras' theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and c has to be the hypotenuse. (24 squared plus 31 squared), I just typed straight into my calculator. 1,537 is equal to x squared. Square root both sides. Gives you x is 39.2. Asks it just as a decimal. It doesn't say how it wants you to round it, so 39.2. Okay, question 3. Question 3. Rick claims most of the flats in his 8th floor building are energy efficient. He samples 45 flats from floors 1 to 5. Give a reason why the sample may not be useful. It's not representative. And the reason being is as he hasn't sampled any flats above floor 5. Question 4. Tick 1. So this is an identity. I expanded the left-hand side. Can you see it's the same as the right-hand side? It's true for all values of x. Because whatever I use as my x here would give the same answer as on the right-hand side. The front elevation of a cuboid is shown on the centimetre grid, so it's got to be 3 by 2. We don't know the depth of it, but we know the volume is 42. So if you've got a 3 by 2, 3 times 2 gives you 6 centimetres squared. If you times that by the depth, which I'm going to call x, we get a volume of 42 centimetres cubed. So let's divide both sides by 6, which gives you x is 7. So the depth, also we'll call it the length, it goes back like 7 centimetres. So from looking at it from the side, kind of from this point of view here, you'd see a square of length 7 with height of 2. You just need to do a 7 by 2 rectangle, and the answer is correct. Okay, question 6A. On Monday, Lars swims 50 metres in 40 seconds at a constant speed. On Tuesday, Lars swims 1.5 kilometres. Even though I've not even looked at the question, we want the same units, so I'm going to convert both into metres. 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres. I'm going to multiply 1.5 by 1,000 to get 1,500 metres. Now we've got the consistent units. So assume he swims at the same constant speed as on Monday. So what is the speed on Monday? 50 divided by 40 will give you how many metres he does per second. So 1.25 metres per second. Assume he swims at the same constant speed. So the speed is 1.25 metres per second. The distance is, I've already converted it into metres, 1,500 metres. Speed equals distance over time. So there's my speed, there's my distance, divided by time. Times both sides by t. Divide both sides by 1.25. Gives us our t is 1,200 seconds. How many minutes is this? Divide it by 60, 20 minutes. In fact, on Tuesday, Lars swims at a slower constant speed than on Monday. What does that mean about the number of minutes he swims for on Tuesday? Tick the box. Well, if it's going to be a slower constant speed, if he's going slower, it's going to take him longer, isn't it? So it's going to be greater than part A. Draw the graph y equals 1 minus half x. There's a few different ways of doing this. You could do it by the gradient and the y-intercept. I'm going to use the table method. I'm going to choose a few values of x, 0, 1 and 2. I'm going to use this formula to generate my values of y. Y is equal 1 minus half times x. 1 minus half times 0. Half times 0 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. 1 minus a half times 1. Half times 1 is a half. So 1 minus a half is a half. And then we've got 1 minus a half times 2. Half times 2 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So we've got 0, 1, 1 half, 2, 0. I'm going to just draw a straight line. Just make sure your straight line goes through your whole graph. Question 8. 4 people are taking part in a television talent show. Here are Amy's marks from the 6 judges. Pie chart represents a phone vote. Amy's total score is found by 4 times the mean of her marks plus her percentage of the phone vote. So 4 times the mean of her marks. Let's find the mean of her marks. How do you find the mean? You add them up and divide by the amount. So we've got 51 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8.5. But we want 4 times the mean mark. So 4 times 8.5 is 34. Plus her percentage of the phone vote. So here's Amy. She's got, on the pie chart, Amy is represented by 162 degrees out of 360. That's what it would be as a proportion. 162 out of 360 is 0.45. Let's multiply this by 100 to get a percentage, 45%. So 34 plus 45, 79. That's Amy's total score is 79. Town A has a population of 84,000, an area of 7 square miles. Town B has a population density of 4,695 people per square mile. Population density equals population over area. Which town has the greater population density? Well, let's work out the population density for town A by doing 84,000 divided by the area, which is 7. Aha, no. Before we do this, let's just look at these inconsistent units here, which are in bold. We need to compare them, these have the exact same units. 1 square mile is 2.6 square miles. So if I times my square miles by 2.6, I get my square kilometres. Let's times this by 2.6. Give us 18.2 square kilometres. So 84,000 divided by 18.2 is 4,615.4 people per square kilometre. So town, which has the greatest population density? It's this one, isn't it? Town B. And there's my working to support my answer. Okay, question 10. On a biased dice, the probability lands on a 6 is 0.38. The dice is rolled 150 times. How many times would you expect the dice not to land on a 6? The probability it doesn't land on a 6 is 1 minus 0.38, which is 0.62. I'm just going to multiply that by 150. Which is 93. Because because the probability is 0.62, 62% of the times it will not land on a 6, which is why I've done 0.62 times 150. (10) divided by minus 2 times something is equal to 5. Well, 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. What do you multiply negative 5 by to get 5? I'm going to just think of it like this. If I solve this as an equation now by dividing both sides by negative 5, gives us x is negative 1. You can check that on your calculator. 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5 times negative 1, 5. Our third times x times 6 is 8 pi. So I'm going to write it as an equation first. Multiplication doesn't matter the order. A third times 6. Well, what's a third of 6 is 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So now x times 2, or 2x, is equal to 8 pi. How do we get x? Divide both sides by 2. 8 pi divided by 2 is 4 pi. And again, you can check this on your calculator to make sure it is correct. A third times 4 pi times 6. Yeah, gives us 8 pi. Question 12. Cards are either gold or not gold. Probability of getting a gold is 0.05. Harim chooses a card at random and places it, then chooses a second card. Complete the tree diagram. So the probabilities in each branch add up to 1. 1 minus 0.05 is 0.95. Work out the probability that at least one of Harim's cards is gold. So that's at least 1 gold. It's at least one gold. This is at least one gold, not this one. So we multiply along our branches. 0.05 times 0.05. 0.0025. 0.05 times 0.95. 0.0475. 0.95 times 0.05. Add all these together because it's this option or this option or this option. (0.0975) is the answer. Here is a quadratic graph. Write down the roots of the equation f of x equals 0. So this graph is the function f of x. We want to know when the answer is 0. So when is the y value 0? Can you see it's here and here? So the answers are x equals 1.5 or x is equal minus 2.2. Okay, we've got a quadrilateral. B equals 45 degrees. A to B is 7 to 3 and x to y is 4 to 1. Show that A to y is 5 to 2. So if A to B is 7 to 3, 45 divided by 3 will give us 1 part, times 7 will give us 7 parts, so that's 105. So A has got to be 105. X to y is 4 to 1. So x is 4 times y. So this is y, that's 4y if that makes sense, because look, it's 4 times y. And we know that angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. So I can form an equation in y and solve. So take 150 from both sides. Divide both sides by 5. Gives us y is 42. If y is 42, x is 4 times 42, which is 168. So a to y, a is 105, y is 42. Let me simplify by dividing both by 3. They divide both by 3, so 105 divided by 3 is 35. 42 divided by 3 is 14. And they both have a common factor of 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5. 14 divided by 7 is 2. I've shown that a to y is 5 to 2. Question 15. A straight line passes through points A minus 5, 9, B and C. 3 minus 7. We're told that AB to BC is 1 to 3. So the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from A to B. So that works out on this diagonal, but you can use that same ratio for like the vertical distance and the horizontal distance. So this vertical distance from A to B, vertical distance from B to C is 3 times the vertical distance from A to B. So we can work out this vertical distance from A to C from the coordinates. That's 9 up and C is minus 7 down. So 9 plus 7 is 16. Now let's use this ratio. 16 divided by 4, because there are 4 parts in this ratio, is 4. So 1 times 4 is 4, 3 times 4 is 12. So we know it's the distance from A to B is 4. and the distance from B to C is 12. The distance from A to B is 4, then 4, like the coordinate for the y coordinate for B is 4 down from the y coordinate for A. So 9 take away 4 is 5. So that's the y coordinate. We will do the x coordinate in a similar way. So the distance from A to B, the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from, so that's the distance from B to C, is 3 times the distance from A to B. Question 15. A straight line passes through points A minus 5, 9, B and C, 3 minus 7. We're told that AB to BC is 1 to 3. So the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from A to B. So that works out on this diagonal, but you can use that same ratio for like the vertical distance and the horizontal distance. So this vertical distance from A to B, vertical distance from B to C is 3 times the vertical distance from A to B. So we can work out this vertical distance from A to C from the coordinates. That's 9 up and C is minus 7 down. So 9 plus 7 is 16. Well, let's use this ratio. 16 divided by 4, because there are 4 parts in this ratio, is 4. So 1 times 4 is 4, 3 times 4 is 12. So we know it's the distance from A to B is 4, and the distance from B to C is 12. The distance from A to B is 4, then 4, like the coordinate for the y coordinate for B is 4 down from the y coordinate for A. So 9 take away 4 is 5. So that's the y coordinate. We will do the x coordinate in a similar way. So the distance from A to B, the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from, so that's the distance from B to C, is 3 times the distance from A to B. Question 15. A straight line passes through points A minus 5, 9, B and C, 3 minus 7. We're told that AB to BC is 1 to 3. So the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from A to B. So that works out on this diagonal, but you can use that same ratio for like the vertical distance and the horizontal distance. So this vertical distance from A to B, vertical distance from B to C is 3 times the vertical distance from A to B. So we can work out this vertical distance from A to C from the coordinates. That's 9 up and C is minus 7 down. So 9 plus 7 is 16. Well, let's use this ratio. 16 divided by 4, because there are 4 parts in this ratio, is 4. So 1 times 4 is 4, 3 times 4 is 12. So we know it's the distance from A to B is 4, and the distance from B to C is 12. The distance from A to B is 4, then 4, like the coordinate for the y coordinate for B is 4 down from the y coordinate for A. So 9 take away 4 is 5. So that's the y coordinate. We will do the x coordinate in a similar way. So the distance from A to B, the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from, so that's the distance from B to C, is 3 times the distance from A to B. Question 15. A straight line passes through points A minus 5, 9, B and C, 3 minus 7. We're told that AB to BC is 1 to 3. So the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from A to B. So that works out on this diagonal, but you can use that same ratio for like the vertical distance and the horizontal distance. So this vertical distance from A to B, vertical distance from B to C is 3 times the vertical distance from A to B. So we can work out this vertical distance from A to C from the coordinates. That's 9 up and C is minus 7 down. So 9 plus 7 is 16. Well, let's use this ratio. 16 divided by 4, because there are 4 parts in this ratio, is 4. So 1 times 4 is 4, 3 times 4 is 12. So we know it's the distance from A to B is 4, and the distance from B to C is 12. The distance from A to B is 4, then 4, like the coordinate for the y coordinate for B is 4 down from the y coordinate for A. So 9 take away 4 is 5. So that's the y coordinate. We will do the x coordinate in a similar way. So the distance from A. So again, the distance from B to C is 3 times the distance from A to B. So if we look at our horizontal distance here, so B is there, B to C is 3 times A to B. The distance from A, the x coordinate here is minus 5, so minus 5 to the x-axis is 5. And from 0 to 3 gives us a total of 8. Let's use this ratio now. 8 divided by 4 is 2, so it's 2 to 6. So minus 5. The x coordinate B is 2 along, so minus 5 plus 2 is minus 3. So the x coordinate here is minus 3. Work out the equation of the line perpendicular to AC that passes through C. Okay, so perpendicular means at right angles. So it's asking for the equation of this line through C. The general form of an equation of a line is y equals mx plus c. C is the gradient. No, C is the y-intercept, m is the gradient. So we need to get the gradient of this line first to get to then find our perpendicular gradient. So x1, y1, x2, y2. The gradient is the difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. So we have minus 7 minus 9 all over 3 minus 5 minus 16 over 8 negative 2. So the gradient of this line is minus 2, but we need the gradient of the perpendicular. To find the gradient of the perpendicular, it is a negative reciprocal of the gradient of this line. So minus 1 divided by minus 2 is a half. So the gradient is a half. So we know y equals half x plus c. We need to find out this y-intercept. Well, we know it goes through the point 3 minus 7, so we can sub in those values. Minus 7 is your y. So we've got half times 3 plus c. So minus 7 equals 3 over 2 plus c. I want to solve this equation to find c, so I'm going to minus 3 over 2 from both sides. So minus 17 over 2, or minus 8.5 is equal to c. So the equation of the line is y equals 0.5x minus 8.5, or you might have half x minus 17 over 2. Question 16. Jing rolls a fair-sided dice 72 times. Is the relative frequency of rolling a 5 greater than the theoretical probability? The theoretical probability of rolling a 5 is 1 out of 6, which as a decimal is 0.16 recurring, and as a percentage is 16.7%. Right, from our table, The relative frequency of rolling of 5 is 14 out of 72. As a decimal is 0.194 recurring. As a percentage is 19.4%. Yes, so it is greater because 19.4% or 0.194 recurring is bigger than 0.16 recurring or 16.7%. Question 17a. A and B are different prime numbers. A cubed times b squared is equal to 200. Work out the value of A4 times B. So we worked out 200 as a product of prime factors. We can see it is 5 squared times 2 cubed. So A is 2, B is 5. So 2 cubed, no, 2 to the power 4 times 5 is 2 to the power 4 is 16 times 5, 80. C and D are different prime numbers. Circle the equation for which c to the power 4 times d squared times e is a cube number. So if E equals CD, so if I replace E for CD here, I'd have C4 times C, which is c to the power 5, times d squared times d, which is d cubed. D cubed is obviously a cube number. C to the power 5 is not, because you couldn't have a number times by itself to give you C5. C5 could come from C times C4, C squared times C cubed, or no, it needs to be 3 times, doesn't it? So D cubed is D times D times D, that's cube. C to the power 5 couldn't get by times and C by itself 3 times. If that was 2, you'd have 2, 4, 6. No, it doesn't work. Okay, let's replace E for this next one here. C squared D. So c to the power 4 times d squared times c squared d. C to the power 4 times c to the power 6. 2 is c to the power 6. D squared times d is d cubed. This is cubed. C to the power 6 is cubed because it's c squared times c squared times c squared. So this is the answer. Here is a triangle. Use the sine rule to show that x is 64. So for the sine rule, missing angle, we have the formula flipped. So sine A over A is equal to sine B over B. So it doesn't really matter what's A and what's B, but whatever the angle A is, the opposite length has to be little lowercase of that letter. So little a, big B, little b. So we've got sine 35 over 7 equals sine x over 11. Sine b or x over 11. We just times both sides by 11 first to get sine x. So sine 35 divided by 7 times 11 is equal to 0.901. Sine to the minus 1 to both sides, that reverses a sine. Sine to the minus 1 answer gives us 64 degrees. Question 19. Functions. Work out the value of f of g of 6. We start with the g of 6 first. The g of 6, we replace x for 6. 4 times 6, take away 7. 17. Now we've worked out the g of 6 is 17, we now work out the f of 17. Take away 3, which is 14. Solve f of x squared equals g of x. F of x squared is x minus 3 squared is equal to 4x minus 7. Let's expand these brackets. So x minus 3 squared means x minus 3 times x minus 3. X squared minus 3x minus 3x minus 3 times minus 3 is positive 9 equals, oh, don't know why I put these brackets in, we don't need those, equals 4x minus 7. Quadratic equation needs to be equal to 0, so I now need to bring everything to the left hand side. So minus 3x is minus 6x. I also need to minus 4x both sides, which gives us minus 10x. Plus 9 is equal to minus 7. Now let's add 7 to both sides. I'm going to factorise. So I need two numbers that multiply to get 16 and add to get minus 10. Minus 8 minus 2. So I know that x minus 8 times x minus 2 is equal to 0. So one of the brackets needs to equal 0. So either x minus 8 equals 0, in which case x is 8, or x minus 2 is equal to 0, in which case x is 2. P, Q and R have positive values. P is directly proportional to Q. P equals KQ. We know when P is 8, Q is 2. So I'm going to work out what the value of K is. 8, if I substitute the values in for P and Q, 8 equals K times 2. Divide both sides by 2, K is 4. So here we know P is equal to 4Q. R is inversely proportional to Q squared. So R is equal to K over Q squared. When R is 10, Q is 3. Times both sides by 9 gives us K is equal to 90. So we know that R is equal to 90 over Q squared. Work out the value of R when P is 0.5. Right, I'm going to work out the value of Q first by putting in P. If I find the value of Q, I can then sub that into the second equation to find R. So P is 0.5. 0.5 equals 4Q. Make Q the subject, divide both sides by 4. Gives us Q is equal to 1/8 or 0.125. And now I can sub that in to find R. R is equal to 90 over 0.125 squared. So R is equal to 5,760. Question 21. A cylinder C and a sphere S each have a radius R. C has height h. Volume of a sphere is 4 over 3 pi r cubed. The volume of C is equal to the volume of S. Work out the ratio of R to H. Okay, so volume of our cylinder. Volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h, because it's the area of the circle times by the height. So we know pi r squared h is equal to 4 over 3 pi r cubed, because they have equal volumes. I'm just going to simplify this a bit. So if I divide both sides by pi, I now know that r squared h is equal to 4 over 3 r cubed. I'm going to divide both sides by r squared, which gives me h is equal to 4 over 3r, because r cubed divided by r squared is r. Okay, I'm just going to rearrange this a bit by timesing both sides by 3. 3h is equal to 4r. I want it in the form r to h, so I'm just going to write it the other way around. Okay, now I want it in the ratio r to h. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4 and divide both sides by 3, which will give me r over 3 is equal to h over 4. So I can now say that the ratio of r to h is 3 to 4. A different cylinder has radius 3r and height 2h. How many times bigger is the volume of this cylinder than the volume of C? Okay, so let's work out the volume of this different cylinder here. Pi r squared h, so pi times r is 3r. 3r squared times 2h. Just be careful here. 3r squared is 9r squared, because 3r times 3r is 9r squared. Just going to simplify that a bit. 9 times 3 is 18. 18 pi r squared h. So we compare that to our original cylinder. You can see it's just 18 times as big. Fatima is choosing a 4-digit code. Each digit is a whole number between from 0 to 9. She decides all her digits will be odd numbers, no digits will be repeated. So how many odd digits do we have? We've got 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. We've got 5. Okay, so the options for the first digit, there are 5 options. We would have used one of our odd numbers, which leaves 4 odd numbers for the next digit, 3 for the next, and 2 for the last. So 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 is 120. Quadrilateral ABCD is reflected. Hang on. Let's do. It doesn't really matter which way round your letters are. So it's reflected in the edge BC. So let me just change the colour. The BC would be your mirror line. If I reflected this rectangle here, you would then get this rectangle, A and D being those vertices there. How many vertices are invariant? So the invariant vertices don't change their position. So 2 of them don't. B and C stay in the same place, so 2. Question 24. Write 2x squared minus 12x plus 7 in the form. Well, we're completing the square with, aren't we? So we can only complete the square when the coefficient of x squared is 1. I'm just going to put it in the first bit into a single bracket. If I divide both of these terms by 2, I get x squared minus 6x. Okay, now I'm going to complete the square here. Half of minus 6 is minus 3. If I expanded these brackets, I'd have the term minus 3 times minus 3, which is 9, which I don't need, which I need to subtract off. So I've just created that 9, I need to get rid of it. And now if I expand the brackets, 2 times minus 9 is minus 18. Simplify. And minus 18 plus 7 is minus 11.